Sierra Leone Policy Watch is a relatively new policy expert or think tank organization, if you will, and as a result, this interview will firstly seek an official introduction of the organization to Sierra Leoneans both at home and abroad. I will also be examining a wide range of socio-economic and political agendas as they pertain to the growth and development of Sierra Leone. Is that fair enough, sir?
Absolutely.
Mr. Suma, what is the rationale behind the formation of SLPW, and what does this body hope to accomplish in the near future as well as far?
Okay, well, and thank you for those questions, Mr. Sise. Sierra Leone Policy Watch is a public policy think tank, an independent, non-profit, non-partisan public policy think tank. It is created to fill a vacuum. Our main reason for existence is for us to be able to assist the government of the day, any government of Sierra Leone, in its socio-economic development challenges by helping to review, analyze, and provide alternative source of public policies. Because we have seen for over 51 years, we are still struggling with the issues, the basic issues of sustenance and survival within Sierra Leone and even governance. And we have therefore decided to provide our own assistance or support to the government, because we know there are so many Sierra Leoneans out there with a lot of experience, with diverse views on policy issues, who will want to have the opportunity to share their own perspective without having to be part of any political system, nor will they want their judgments to be clouded by any partisan political interest or tribal interest or regional interest. Pure, clear, open-minded, frank and free forum wherein we can discuss and analyze these public policies and be able to provide alternative source of policies, recommendation for the government moving forward.
How big is this organization we're talking about, and what are the criteria should a Sierra Leonean that I know decide to be a member of your group?
The organization is yet in its embryonic stage. It is about a year old, and membership is open to every Sierra Leonean and friend of Sierra Leone. It is just a matter of, going into our website, logging in or clicking into membership area. You sign up your name, you pay your subscription, which is about $120 a year, and that's it. You become a member, and that will entitle you to so many rights, including the right to be able to review the financial report and be able to review our annual report, elect the board of trustees, and be able to approve all other reports that the executive committee produces. And the organization is actually owned by its members. Becoming a member becomes the owner. You buy into the ownership of Sierra Leone Policy Watch.
Thank you, Mr. Suma. I know for a fact that you understand the cliche of the toothless bulldog who barks but doesn't bite. Formulation of ideas and policies means nothing if you can't get them to work in a meaningful way that will affect the necessary changes needed in Sierra Leone. How do you intend not to be one of those toothless bulldogs?
Very good question. And this will give me an opportunity to clarify the difference between Sierra Leone Policy Watch and other organizations. We are not a civil rights organization. We are not a pressure group. We are not a tribal organization. We are not an offshoot of any political party. Our own sole objective is to be able to prove to policymakers that there are better ways of doing things. There are better ways of governing our society. There are better ways of addressing the socio-economic challenges. There are better ways of addressing the challenges we face in the area of education. There are better ways of addressing the challenges we face in the area of agriculture. And by the fact that we bring in Sierra Leoneans of like minds with a lot of experiences working for other development agencies and transforming lives in other countries and working in the Western world, working within Sierra Leone, running their own private businesses, being successful in doing so. We want to be able to tap into their own experiences and bring them to bear upon the formulation of policies that we will present to our government. And if they fail to accept and adopt or appreciate the work that we do, as we have done over the past year, there is a matter of the public to see and expose the ineptitude of any government who struggles to address issues, and yet you have solutions being provided by our Sierra Leoneans outside their own circle. Then that to us will expose the fact that perhaps whoever is in government is not really there with the main intention of addressing the problems, but to satisfy their own selfish end. And since the policies that we provide is not geared towards satisfying any individual or political party or tribal interest, it's geared towards uplifting the whole of Sierra Leone. So that to us will have reflected, will reflect the extent of our role and service in that regard. But we're not going to be able to jump on the street and, make noise or threaten or attack any government official or any political party. But we will make sure that we work with development agencies, the World Bank, the IMF, DFID, USAID, that goes there and provide funds to this government. And if they see that there are Sierra Leoneans with keen interest to develop Sierra Leone, coming up with meaningful, doable, common sense policy ideas, then perhaps through our the development agency or development partners, they will be able to listen to some of the ideas that we produce. But they are free for them to take. These are ideas that policy and recommendations that they pay representatives of the World Bank, IMF, and other development agencies hundreds of thousands of dollars for them to go produce this same kind of recommendation, perhaps less effective, at least by the experiences for the past 51 years or more.
Mr. Suma, I was going to save policy issues for the last, but now that you started going down that route, I will take you on that. What are some of the pressing issues you've been working on as far as policies are concerned? You made mention of education, agriculture. Can you throw light on some of the researches that you guys have done, and what are your findings, if you will?
We recognize the fact that Sierra Leone is rich. There is no question about that. We recognize the fact that Sierra Leone is one of the most wealthy countries in the world, but the country is rich, the people are poor. So it boils down to two major areas: leadership and the poor management of our natural resources. So just within the past 1 year, we've succeeded in examining the flaws within the Sierra Leone mining policy and other policies relating to the management of natural resources. And we've done an analysis of those policies and make recommendations in terms of what changes that needs to be done to be able to realize the optimum benefit from our natural resources without scaring investors away, whilst the investors will also be able to realize their objective. But our recommendation is not there to serve the personal greed of any individual. And if somebody is in leadership and means well for the country, those are recommendations they will want to look at. Now, in the area of, we also observe that to provide good leadership, we need education. So we've set up an advisory board on education. They're going to spend the next 1 year doing research and trying to identify what are the main crucial problems and how to find solutions to the problems, and we recommend that to the government. We've also touched on the anti-corruption. We also know that corruption is another issue. We looked at the Anti-Corruption Act of 2008 and get policy experts to be able to examine and analyze the Anti-Corruption Act and be able to identify loopholes and make recommendations that we think needs to be taken into consideration to close those loopholes and make the act more effective, so that we'll be able to deter any tendency for anybody to be corrupt or embezzle state funds.
Very well said, sir. Sierra Leone is being touted around the world as having the fastest growing economy, most especially amongst developing nations. What are your views on that?
Well, it's good news. It's very good news that the international community has identified the potential of Sierra Leone to having a growth rate of at least 30 to 36% in the next coming years. But our main concern in that area is the fact that we want to make sure that development is reflected on the lives of every average Sierra Leonean, even to the village level. If you have a country having, let's say, for instance, a GDP of $2 billion, and have, let's say, 1 million people in that country, and that $2 billion, 90% of it is only in the hands of 10% or 5% of the population, then that is not wealth, that is not growth for us. In our own interpretation of growth, if that 36% growth is reflective into the lives of the average Sierra Leonean, then it will become meaningful for us. If that 30% growth is going to be able to reduce poverty by a proportional percentage across the board, at every region, in every sector of society, then that will be true development for us. If that growth results to narrowing the income inequality gap, just so that we have a larger proportion of middle class, and then that is growth for us. So those are the crucial areas we'll be looking at in terms of how to interpret and be able to generate the best out of these projections that are coming out of the international or development agencies for Sierra Leone.
Mr. Suma, as we go through this interview, it's difficult for us to separate what your organization is doing and are planning to do with whatever the government is doing right now. In your honest view, what do you think about the present government?
Well, officially we try not to tread into those areas in terms of making assessment of politicians or making statements that are politically related. But in terms of comparing the performance of the current government to its immediate predecessors, in my opinion, the government is doing extremely well.
Well, don't you think it will be a pat on government's back if you, from time to time, not only look at weaknesses and flaws that the government has, which we all believe that the Leoneclub government is not by all means the most perfect government, and I'll say that with confidence. But one thing that we can all say is that we're seeing development going on, and we still have a lot of room for improvement, and which I believe he will. And don't you think it will be fair, as you look at the weaknesses of the government, but you also look at the strength of the government, and from time to time say, you know what, you're doing a great job on this side?
Oh, absolutely, and I'm glad you brought that up. There is one aspect that I'm going to try to push within, recommend to the board, in other words, to come up with an annual review of the performance of any successive government. This is an annual review that is not coming from the World Bank, the IMF, but Sierra Leoneans themselves, and we will be able to put up our own way of evaluating that, provided the board approves. But in my own candid opinion, indeed, as I said earlier, Leoneclub, comparatively, and I keep using the word comparatively, and I do that deliberately for a reason, comparatively to his predecessors, Tijan Kaba and all those who came before him, with the exception of Sir Milton Magai, in my own candid opinion, he seems to be the best so far. But the best in this case, let me give you an analogy here. If you have your child, and the child has the natural potential to be an A student, meaning that to always come up with honors report, and that child is considered the best in class, in his classroom. In this case, Leoneclub is the best compared to his predecessors. But if that best is coming up with C, when you know it's capable of coming with A, will you be satisfied with your child's performance? In my opinion, I will not be satisfied with my child's performance, because he is now measuring himself within the failures of the existing peers within his class. And in that case, if you measure him there, he is the best, but outside that circle, when you compare him with his counterparts from outside his class, then he's not performing right. Yet he has the potential of becoming an A student. And that is where Sierra Leone is, in my opinion. Sierra Leone as a nation, based on the natural resources, if we have the right leadership, the rate of growth and the rate of development, and the way we can be able to attack and address the socio-economic challenges in the area of education, agriculture, you know, you name it, trade, poverty alleviation. We have the potential right now. We have the natural resources and the means for us to be able to do it at much faster rate than it is being done. But I commend Anes, because in my opinion there is no alternative right now. We better deal with the one that is giving us at least little results than begin to worry taking risk with somebody else or anything else that we don't come out the way we expected.
Mr. Suma, there's a Chinese proverb which says the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a footstep. And you made mention of a child that you would love to see making an A grade. But don't you think in the case of the child, there are different stakeholders that will necessarily allow that child to make that A, get that A status? And those will include the parents, the teachers, the environments, the community. Now let's look at the government in its case. I think it wouldn't be fair for us to just nail the president. We'll have to look at all other organizations that will be a key stakeholders, like the civil rights groups, the opposition parties themselves, and Sierra Leoneans both home and abroad, including the SLPW that is trying to partner with the government in seeing Sierra Leone move forward. Therefore, whatever performance the government is going through right now, that's not just a grade for the government in power, but a grade for us all. It's a reflection of us all as Sierra Leoneans. So in this case, don't you think we all need to put our strengths together so that we see the nation progress from where we all want it to be?
That is great, and in fact is out of the progress that we're seeing and the sincerity of a few within the government, including the president, that led to the inspiration to the creation of Sierra Leone Policy Watch. That listen, there is some roadmap here that we can follow. Maybe we can be able to come in here without aligning ourselves with any specific political party, identify those who are sincere and honest and determined to move Sierra Leone forward, and provide the support. And the support we intend to provide is not only for government, but all individuals, even Sierra Leoneans that are in business. If they need some assistance in terms of business or economic development plan, they can always count on us for help, and we'll be ready to provide that help. And that is the reason why we decided to come, because we realized that most of the time for over 50 or 51 years, there are so many Sierra Leoneans that have been doing a lot of help for Sierra Leone. But doing a lot of help in so many different ways is like you building a structure. If the foundation is not solid, then everything else you do towards building that particular structure will be affected. And that is the difference between attacking the policies upon which the nation is governed, as opposed to bringing relief help. You bring bread today, you bring bread tomorrow, you bring rice today, you bring mangoes tomorrow. But if you don't teach the man how to make use of the available resources and make the best use of the available resources within their own resources, within their own community, then you will end up feeding that man for the next 51 years, as we have done for the past 51 years. So we decided to come with a policy approach, just so that we can be able to examine how best we can make the best use of our natural resources by recommending the best approach. And we are hitting at the foundation as opposed to actually patching or addressing the symptoms.
Okay. Mr. Suma, this brings me to my next question. Relationship with stakeholders, the government in power, the opposition parties, and the people of Sierra Leone themselves, upon whose behalf the organization stands. How is that being handled? What's your relationship between the government, between the opposition parties? Have you tried to bring them in on board?
That is a good question, and I'm glad you asked that. I will take you through one specific recommendation document that we sent out to the government that has to do with the diaspora voting right. We recognize the fact that the legislative branch of government has the constitutional right to enact laws. So we decided to actually make an entire draft of a bill that will improve on our democratization process and help to enfranchise other Sierra Leoneans, many of whom live outside Sierra Leone and want to be able to have the opportunity to have a say in the decisions that influence their life and the life of their loved ones. When we drafted this bill, we sent copies to the 3 branches of government. So we do not only limited it to the executive branch. We sent a copy to the Speaker and the Leader of the House of Parliament and the Minority Leader of the Parliament. We also sent a copy to the Attorney General of Sierra Leone. We sent a copy to the Chair Lady of the National Electoral Commission. We sent a copy to the executive branch through the President. None of them had the courtesy to even respond to any of the documents that we sent to them. We sent copies to the different political parties, PMDC, APC, and SLPP. The President was the only one that had the decency to respond to our letter, acknowledging receipt and commending us for our effort and expressing his appreciation for what we do. And he told us that he has referred the matter to the Attorney General. And we tried to have an audience with the Attorney General several attempts and failed in doing so, and nothing else happened. But in other words, this is how we approach issues. For each policy recommendation that we send out to the government, we make sure that we send copies to every branch of government, and also we send copies to the different political parties. In terms of reaching the entire populace, we also try to upload copies of these recommendations on our website and share it and come out with press releases so people know that these are the ideas that we are putting forward that we think can be used to address this specific issue.
Thank you. I understand that you guys will be convening your first conference on Saturday.
Yes.
What are you hoping to accomplish in that?
Good. That's another good question. We are trying to, first of all, create a platform where Sierra Leoneans that are very keen about the challenges we face will come together and take part of the discussions in the goals and agenda, in trying to analyze some of the goals and the agenda we have for this year moving forward. But most importantly, we want to be able to present our stewardship to the members of SLPW and the general public. So this is how the general public has a stake in what we do, because we have to give an account of what we do to them. We'll be doing a presentation of our financial report. A copy has already been given to all SLPW members, like 30 days in advance by our constitution. It has to be done at least 14 days in advance. All those who paid subscription have received a copy of our financial report, and we're going to do a presentation of the annual report, and we're going to have group discussion on the area of education, in the area of fiscal and economic policy, in the area of information and communication technology, and so many different type of socioeconomic areas for which we have created advisory committees. And those advisory committees will be discussing their strategic work plan. We have 2 types of documents that are going to be focused on: the guidelines for the committee, the strategic work plan for the committee. We're encouraging the general public to be part and parcel of that, so we can all be able to analyze. Everybody knows exactly what we intend to do and how we intend to do it.
I'll sincerely, on behalf of the Daily Mail, want to wish you guys a successful conference, and hope that you guys will keep the fire burning for development and progress in Sierra Leone. Before we conclude, what would be your final parting shot? What message do you have for Sierra Leoneans out there?
First of all, I would like my fellow Sierra Leoneans to know that Sierra Leone is a blessing to us. Sierra Leone, it's a gift of God that we have failed to appreciate. I always say this, for those who know may have heard me say this before. And until we learn to value Sierra Leone for what it is and appreciate the goodies within that gift box, then we'll be able to realize the importance for us to be able to manage that gift of God to the benefit of all Sierra Leoneans. And when we do that, the future is unimaginably great. There are so many Sierra Leoneans who will not even want to move out of Sierra Leone. God has given us all that we want, and all we have to ask for is the wisdom for us to manage and appreciate Him for what He has given us. Those days when we will want to have to rely on others outside Sierra Leone to come and manage our natural resources to their own benefit at the expense of the destruction of our natural resources, on environment and everything else, just as it's been happening since the 1930s when diamond was first discovered, gold was discovered. We have cocoa, coffee, bauxite, you name it, iron ore, and still God is opening the riches and the secret within that gift box. And recently have now discovered crude oil. We have to be able to know how to manage. But the future of Sierra Leone is in our hands. And first of all, we have to be able to value and respect one another, love one another, support one another, be proud of Sierra Leone, and be able to speak well of Sierra Leone in every circle you find yourself. And that's how we'll be able to get ourselves out of this mess. But the future is great, and let us make an effort to be part and parcel of transforming Sierra Leone for the better for all Sierra Leoneans. On
that note, Mr. Jesmed, and on behalf of the Sierra Leone Daily Mail, I'll personally want to thank you for taking this time out talking to us. We at Daily Mail value your recommendations, we value what you're doing, and as long as you are on that path of development and growth, we will do whatever it takes to see the SLPW move forward.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I appreciate you taking the time.